This is an ex-Jehovah's Witness talking about an ex-Mormon, talking about a Mormon talking about things. So yeah, we got some Inception level stuff happening here. I wanted to watch this video of this ex-Mormon reviewing this episode of South Park and this girl that's talking about it. I actually made a video about this girl right here that's on screen, top left. I did a video about her like years ago, and it was one of my top watched videos. Has like over 1 million views or something. She specifically requested that I not speak about her anymore, and I haven't. So I'm going to preface this by saying, don't harass her, leave her alone. This video isn't about her. It's about the person on screen on the right here, this ex-Mormon talking about it, and we may not even review top left girl's coverage of it. But let's just start at the beginning and listen to this ex-Mormon talk about this South Park episode on Mormonism.
Now how about we do some scripture readings from the Book of Mormon?
Ah, yes, family home evening, a activity that I spent quite a bit of time doing growing up, which is being featured here in this South Park episode called All About the Mormons. This South Park episode was put out in 2003. I, of course, heard about this cartoon growing up, but I definitely never watched it because I knew that South Park was a cartoon for adults.
I also wasn't allowed to watch, but my brothers watched it, surprisingly. My brothers and my dad, they were only good Jehovah's Witnesses when they wanted to be.
Some people said that this episode was anti-Mormon, and so I definitely never watched this as an active member. Even the language in the episode or in South Park in general alone would keep me from watching something like this. But I did watch this one time 8 years ago, right when I first left the church. Some people suggested it to me and my husband who were in the process of leaving. And so today I'm watching it again for the second time. I will say I've learned a lot of Mormon history since then. And so I am so excited to give you my ex-Mormon hot take on the South Park episode All About the Mormons.
I always felt like South Park was kind of vile. Like even after leaving Jehovah's Witnesses and having like no real reason to feel that way, I still felt like it was kind of vile. I don't know. I just never gave it a shot. Maybe I should. Again, I don't want to focus on the girl in the top left. She asked me not to. Although I'm fully legally within my rights to do so, I just want to respect people's privacy and decisions. Though she did put this out publicly on YouTube, and it's up to this day, so there's that.
I will also be reacting to a video that an active Mormon did several years ago where she, as a believer, is reacting. So we're going to have a little bit of my reaction and a little bit of my reaction to the reaction
And you're going to have my reaction to her reaction to her reaction. So it's going to, yes, Inception level shit going on here. All right, let me jump forward here. All right.
Just moved here from Utah.
I love that Gary is blonde because the Mormon stereotype is definitely all Mormons are very white and blonde people from Utah.
I'm really excited to live in this town and share all kinds of great experiences with you, my new friends.
In the Mormon reaction video, she reminds us that not all Mormons are from Utah. And that's a very common defense about Utah Mormons is that it's a worldwide church and there are more members outside of the United States than in it. But ultimately, the highest concentration of Mormons is still in Utah. That's where they fled after Joseph Smith died. And as much as Mormons don't like that stereotype.
Yeah, I understand they started in Columbus, I think. Right? Columbus, Ohio? I don't even remember. I think they started out as Ohioans and became Utahns. I hate those names. They're terrible names for people from states.
If you ever visit Utah, there is a Mormon chapel on every single block.
Maybe he won't fight. Oh, I get it.
And you know what else I heard? I don't know if this is true, but I'm going to spread a rumor here. I heard that the vast majority of like convenience stores and stuff in Utah, or at least around Salt Lake City, the majority do not have soda fountains, like soft drink dispensers in the convenience stores and stuff. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I'm the new kid.
I love this nice Mormon kid stereotype too. Not only is he from Utah, he's perfect, he got straight A's, he's an athlete, and he's also so nice. In this interview I found with the creators of South Park, they said that they are atheists who don't hate religion, who are kind of fascinated by it and kind of admire it. And
yeah, it sounds kind of like me.
That definitely comes through, that Mormons hold a very special place in the hearts of the creators of South Park. I mean,
I don't think I admire it, but I'm fascinated by it at the very least. I mean, obviously, it's why I'm on YouTube talking about it, right?
so far, they've only portrayed this little boy in the most positive light imaginable. So now that I'm getting into it,
I mean, they've portrayed him as like a clone of a personality, effectively, right? He's a clone. And this is what you find with cults. They clone the same personality. Everybody is exactly the same. They're all falling into the same pattern. They're all doing the same things. They dress similarly. They're all very mild-mannered and timid and quiet. It's weird. Jehovah's Witnesses do it, Mormons do it, and a bunch of other cult members do too. Heaven's Gate, for example, they were all the same. They all shaved their heads because they believed that gender was like evil and that sex was like unnatural and all this stuff. And why did Heaven's Gate believe that? Because the leader, Marshall Applewhite, also known as Doe, in my opinion, was gay and could not process that. I don't want to go down this whole Heaven's Gate rabbit hole, but I don't know if you knew their website is still up. This is their website, Heaven's Gate website. I emailed the webmaster, and he's an ex-member. He stayed behind on behalf of Heaven's Gate to maintain their intellectual properties and stuff until the earth is recycled, quote unquote. And there are a bunch of like videos of the Heaven's Gate members, which I've covered on my Owen Unfiltered channel if you're interested in seeing. I went through a whole breakdown of all of their, training videos and all of that stuff. Here you go. These are exit statements, which is like, this is the day before they all checked out, sadly.
And I was overcome thinking, wanting to see the vehicles.
Vehicle being their bodies. They believe that their bodies are just vehicles for the souls, which are inherently just alien souls, basically.
Family and things like that, and didn't leave a note or anything because I knew who my real family was, but I just had a feeling I needed to go back out into the world, per se, to see what it was like and to see what might be there.
So this is one person. Check these out.
Before then, but I heard about them. When I heard about them, I knew that they were what I was looking for, and I had been searching for.
Jesus, so can you be any louder, birds? My God, when did birds get so f***ing loud?
Years and years for it. Why was I even here?
Shut the f*** up, birds. What is wrong with you? Somebody tape their f***ing beak shut. My God.
For years and years for it. Why was I even here? What was I doing here? And then I met T and Doe, and I knew.
T and Doe, Marshall Applewhite, and Bonnie Nettles, his accomplice. They were partners, but they were not. They did not have a sexual relationship. Again, I don't want to go down this whole rabbit hole. It's a totally separate subject. But Doe was fired from his position at a university as a professor, I believe, for having inappropriate relations with a male student. And as far as anyone else can tell, he never had another long-term relationship with a woman. I think he had a wife for a while, but yeah, I think he was gay. The point is that all cult members are cut from the same cloth, and that's what was being portrayed here on this South Park episode, seems to me. And I think that goes over a lot of Mormons' heads. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they worked together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, let's continue.
I honestly can't remember too much. I mean, I watched this episode like 8 years ago. I am curious to see if the kindness, though, is going to be a pretext for sharing the Mormon gospel.
Okay, my turn. Ooh, fine.
See, they're all clones. They're all clones of each other. They're all mild-mannered and kind and jovial and sweet, It's very plastic. They're all very plastic. And the answers to anything are always the exact same answers that any other Mormon will give, or Jehovah's Witness or whoever. Mountain Cat says, I also enjoy Colorado references. I'd like to see the musical The Book of Mormon by the same creators. I actually got to see the musical The Book of Mormon on Broadway. I, of course, live in Manhattan, so I just took a quick trip down, downtown there to Midtown. But It was really interesting. It was good. I didn't know what it was walking into it. I wasn't sure if it was like positive about Mormonism or negative or what. I had no clue what it was. My wife was like, we should go see that. It was really good. You should see it if you can. And I don't like musicals. I actually hate musicals. But that was definitely worth the watch.
I love that they're playing a board game in this. Board games are like the foundation of Mormon childhood culture. I played so many board games growing up. Settlers of Catan was a really popular one. And not just
I've heard of that one.
board games, card games. Like I played Apples to Apples constantly in college, which is so funny. You know, I'm sure the average viewer in an American college experience was not playing.
You know why I'm guessing why they play a lot of board games and card games and things that other people don't as much? I'm guessing it's because they want to separate themselves from the rest of society, as most cult members tend to do, and form out their own culture. So they're kind of opposed to watching a lot of TV. Jehovah's Witnesses are certainly. They're kind of opposed to internet use or excessive internet use, at least. Opposed to like using your phone or whatever other thing. There are just a lot of restrictions on your life, and it's always, always, always in the back of your mind. Like, is this something that Jehovah would approve of? I'm going to take a shot in the dark and assume that it's the exact same thing with Mormons.
Playing Apples to Apples at most parties, but that was my college experience. And they're just so wholesome. Even just the laughter of the family, it's just so...
By the by, somebody asking for a channeling. This is Alyssa Grenfell, released 6 months ago.
Even just the laughter of the family, it's just so wholesome. But I love the contrast.
Wholesome. What one would call wholesome, I would call boring as sin. Well, not boring as sin, because sin is entertaining. I would say you need more sin in there to make it more entertaining. Anyway, boring as shit, I guess you could say. But it's interesting that she views it as wholesome rather than what it really is, which is like an attempt to prevent people from accessing the outside world. What's bad about reading Reddit? Nothing. Going through Reddit is a wholesome activity too. It can be, at least. I mean, if you're in the right subreddits or whatever. These people, these Mormons, they seem to view being separated from society completely as wholesome. It's not wholesome, really.
Between the Mormon family and everyone else, where the wholesomeness is almost eerie because it doesn't seem real.
Well, it's great you could join us for family home evenings, Stan.
So many kids. And of course they're all musicians.
Oh yes, Mormon stereotype. They all go to school for some musical degree or something. I've known a lot of Mormons in my life, and they all go to school for musical something, or they all play like 6 instruments. Mr. Atheist, Jimmy Snow, he plays a bunch of instruments: the piano, the guitar, the sax, I think. Daniel M., I've watched the HG checkout tapes. I saw your series on them. Minor correction. They actually took phenobarbital, then used bags for suffocation. They did? What did I say it was? I said cyanide. It wasn't cyanide? That would make sense. I can see that. Well, thank you for the correction. Yeah, they mixed phenobarbital, I guess, into their applesauce cups, and they ate the applesauce. It put them to sleep, and they put bags on their heads. They went one group at a time. 25 of them did it. The other 25 helped the others. And then the second group did it. And one person went down and helped everybody else. That's one way to do it, I guess. It's a relatively painful way to go, I suppose. It's a really sad story, honestly. This didn't have to happen. And Uhura from Star Trek? Again, we're not talking about Heaven's Gate here, but it's just such a heartrending, interesting story. Uhura's brother from Star Trek, he was in the Heaven's Gate group that checked out.
Music is such a huge part of Mormon culture. It's funny to me too, because this little family looks like they're going to be influencers. 2003, before this episode, that was kind of before the influencer era of social media. But this family now would have 1 million followers because there's 20.
Totally.
kids, there's not literally 20 kids, but there's a ton of kids. And
Oh my God, yes, they have so many kids. I don't know how the hell they afford so many kids. It's crazy. Like, even 6 kids is so many. Oh my God. I came from a family of 4. There were 4 of us, and that's a lot.
The family is so smiling and happy. And a family like this is like this is 2003, pre-internet social media family right here, doing all of their little instruments. They are playing in a play. They're playing board games. They're so fun. They're so wholesome. This is like a crash course in why there are so many Mormon influencers.
All right, go Dave! Where be your gibes now?
So interesting because they get so much of the culture right. When I would do family home evening growing up, we would do something called talent shows. And in my
That's fascinating. We did talent shows as Jehovah's Witnesses, but not as families. We did it as a congregation. Like, we had events that we did every year. Talent show was one of them. Costume party was one of them. And they never overlapped with any holidays on the outside world because, of course, that was like illegal in their mind or whatever. Wow, that's really interesting. Mormon, cults generally have a knack for pulling people in and keeping them.
Do family home evening growing up, we would do something called talent shows. And in my family, so family home evening is usually every Monday, and we always had some sort of activity. There was always a treat like cookies.
That may actually be a fine idea. That's actually a fine idea, I think. Yeah. Family home evening where you do something fun, you have cookies, you juggle, you play a board game or something. Some people don't play board games well, though, like I played Monopoly with my kid and my wife for the first time a few years ago, and I was rigging the game in my kid's favor. Why wouldn't you? Of course, you rig it in her favor, and my wife starts getting pissed. Oh, it's so funny. She's like, how are you getting pissed? It's like a 6-year-old playing Monopoly. Anyway, whatever. It's funny. No, she wasn't pissed. She was just getting a little worked up, and I was like, it's Monopoly, all right?
We always did, the activity would be a board game or something. We might do, like I said, the talent show where we all show off our various talents. Mine would be, gymnastics. My sister was good at flute, an instrument. So this is spot on to my lived experience as a Mormon growing up. So far, besides the unfavorable language, I feel like this is not anti-Mormon, but
Unfavorable language, I missed it.
we'll see.
Now how about we do some scripture readings from the Book of Mormon?
Amazing. This is so spot on too, that the kindness and the happiness is so often a pretext for missionary work. Here they are having a great time, but it's all leading up to this wonderful opportunity to
Totally.
share the gospel.
Exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses do. This exact pattern.
As a Mormon kid, I always carried a Book of Mormon with me. I invited my friends to church dances. I invited guys that I was dating who weren't members to church.
Wow, that's definitely not something Jehovah's Witnesses would do. I know they're different organizations. I know that they're different like cultures or whatever, but Jehovah's Witnesses do not date outside the religion. They do not do it. It's not against the rules technically, but if you like engage in premarital anything, then you're in some real deep shit. In fact, if you were in a position where you could have engaged in premarital anything, i.e., if you take a car ride with them alone, then it's automatically assumed that you did something you weren't supposed to with Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's heavily regulated. I wonder what that was like with Mormons. Maybe someone can add some context for me.
It's all so much of the friendliness and kindness is meant to almost open the door. As a Mormon
Totally. Same with Jehovah's Witnesses. Absolutely.
Missionary, you're taught to go be really friendly and compliment their home and ask about their kids and, say their kids are so cute.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're taught to do this stuff as a Jehovah's Witness. They teach you how to be friendly and to draw people in, go to the door and they'll give you practice presentations where you'll say, you'll make note of the things in their yard. Do they have toys in their yard? Do they have a garden in their yard? Is it well kept or whatever? Notice the little details and think about the things that you think they might be interested in and tie that in. I noticed you have a lovely garden out here. Do you know that one day God promised us that he will restore the earth to be a garden just like it was before blah, blah, blah. So yeah, you're trained to do that kind of thing for sure as a Jehovah's Witness.
It's all basically smoke and mirrors that are just trying to get your heart to be opened so that they can introduce you to the Book of Mormon and to Joseph Smith.
Totally. Manipulation tactics all the way down.
Who's Joseph Smith?
Only the most important person in the world.
So there's a Mormon girl who did a reaction video to this episode, and here is what she has to say about that line about how Joseph Smith is the most important guy in the world.
Not true. He's not the most important person in the world. That is Jesus Christ. For sure, we do not worship Joseph Smith.
They kind of do a little bit. You know, within the context of other religions, what they're doing is worshiping Joseph Smith. I understand they don't feel that way, but if, like, Jehovah's Witnesses treated another person the way that the Mormons treat Joseph Smith, everybody would say that they were worshiping that person. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not giving her that W.
Not the most important person in the world. That is Jesus Christ. For sure, we do not worship Joseph Smith.
We do not worship Joseph Smith. Please open the hymn book to the hymn Praise to the Man, which is about Joseph Smith and about praising him, which I suppose she might write off as saying compliments to him. But if you read the lyrics, praise to the man who communed with Jehovah, Jesus anointed.
Oh, God, no. That's not God's name. I'm sorry. I cannot stand it. When people use the name Jehovah, it's wrong. And it's embarrassing to me to hear people say the word Jehovah. You know what Jehovah's Witnesses would say about that? Demons shiver at the name of Jehovah. So that's me, I guess, right? I'm shivering at the name of Jehovah. Yeah, because it's cringy and stupid. It's not an English translation like they claim. The name is Yahweh. It was always Yahweh. J's didn't exist until the 1400s. And for the record, Jesus' name is not Jesus. It was Yeshua. English translation is Josh. But there is no context or sense in which Jehovah is God's name. Not even a little bit, not ever. Jehovah was actually, it was an attempt to get people to say the wrong name because they had a superstition about saying God's name. So they spread the idea that Jehovah is God's real name so that people wouldn't say Yahweh. I'm not joking. It's 100% real.
That prophet and seer. Kings shall extol him and nations revere. Hail to the prophet ascended to heaven. Hail to the prophet ascended to heaven certainly doesn't sound like they don't worship him to me. There's also a much loved quote about Joseph Smith that I heard constantly.
Dude, what is this book? What is this? Great Leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The illustrated story of President Joseph Smith. Wow. I've never seen or heard of that book before. I love it.
There's also a much loved quote about Joseph Smith that I heard constantly growing up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I need to find this book. Illustrated Story of President Joseph Smith.
Loved quote about Joseph Smith that I heard constantly growing up that says, it's from the Doctrine and Covenants, which is Mormon scripture. Joseph Smith, the prophet and seer of the Lord, has done more, save Jesus only, for the salvation of men in this world than any other man who has ever lived in it. So as much as she says, you know, we don't worship Joseph Smith, there's certainly a lot of worship adjacent language around Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith was called a prophet. Dum 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 dum.
This is definitely attacking Mormons, right? The song.
I have such a funny memory of this dumb, because in high school, there was a guy who sometimes when I would be talking about my faith, of the Mormonism, of the Book of Mormon and everything, he would sing that to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dum. And I just thought he was being silly. High school guys, like silly, whatever, those rascals. But
go on, I'm listening.
When I watched this for the first time and now, I just think it's so funny that he watched this episode. He was a high school boy watching South Park and he was saying dumb, like D-U-M-B, obviously is what they're getting at here, is that this whole thing is dumb. But he would say that to me and whew, over my head, obviously. And then in this...
What did she think he was saying then? Did she think that he was just humming a tune? I wonder, did she know that the tune he was singing was from the show?
Mormon reaction video from this girl. I watched the whole thing. She never catches on to the dum 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 dum.
No? Oh my God, I didn't notice that in the video that I made about her forever ago. That's funny.
I think I was basically like Gary in South Park, where I'm just like, wow, someone's listening to me share about my faith. This is the most wonderful moment of my life.
I mean, they kind of draw it out pretty clearly in the episode, if I remember correctly. I haven't seen the episode in forever, but I think that there came a point where every time he would say something really ridiculous or stupid, they'd go, dum, 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 dum. It couldn't possibly be clearer. Like, how are you missing this?
Dum, 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 dum. You know, so funny.
And suddenly, God and Jesus appeared before me, and they said I should start my own church.
This is great. They use the exact Mormon line here, which is they're presenting, obviously, which is the story Joseph Smith taught, the approved narrative. They don't, in this episode, obviously, they don't get into all of the history, but the truth is that Joseph Smith, nobody knew about this first vision until over a decade after he said it happened. He said this happened when he was 14.
I could be wrong. I believe that he claimed that all this stuff went down in 1823, and he didn't reveal any of it until 1833 or something to that effect. Again, if you're in the comments and you know the story more than I do, which is likely, then please put it in the comments and I'll take a look through it. But he claims to have found these golden plates, and he didn't say anything about them for like years or something, right? And then they just kind of appear out of nowhere. No one ever saw the plates, by the way. He just claimed that they existed. And he got like 5 people to sign a document saying that they personally witnessed, like they saw the plates. But actually, what they meant was they saw the plates in their mind's eye, in the spirit. They saw them in the spirit. No one ever actually saw the plates. So anyway, just ridiculous. Where are the plates? They're nowhere. They are non-existent. He used them for treasure hunting as a kid. You talking about the rock? Right. The plates, supposedly, he needed a rock to translate the plates, I believe. And the rock that he used was the exact rock that he used to scam people out of money when he was younger. Do this parlor trick where he helped them find hidden treasure that somebody was, their family member or whatever hid. They'd hire him to find it. And of course he never did, but he used this little divining rock or whatever to find it unsuccessfully, and just started like actually translating, supposedly, this, these plates that were in a foreign language. And he was not literate, really, barely literate. And people somehow believe that he was capable of translating a document from like a language that's like thousands of years old. How did people not catch on to this? You know how they didn't catch on? Brainwashing, cult, mind control. He convinced them that he was real, and anything that he says is real. It's just sad, man. Oh, check it out. 20 seconds and we'll have a copy of the book.
He didn't speak a word of it till after the Book of Mormon was published and after he was a well-known prophet.
Oh, and you know what? He didn't just scam people out of money. You know what else he scammed them out of? Their daughters. Their 10, 12, 14, 16-year-old daughters. Scammed them out of that, too.
See? You believe it now?
Well, yeah, sure. Why would he make that up?
Oh my gosh. Why would he make it up? He
For the daughters.
later had 30 wives. But why would he make it up?
Oh, and a lot of money, too, of course. He had like a ton of money. And you know what? At a certain point, I'd be willing to take the step and say that he probably believed at least aspects of the belief system himself. I'll take it that far. I'll say I think that he believed some of it. But he totally knew that he was full of shit with like a lot of this.
Later became known across the country and had thousands of followers. But why would he make it up?
I am Moroni. I am a Native American.
But your skin is white.
Wow.
There's a YouTuber named Brother Jake. He doesn't upload anymore. He hasn't in a long time, unfortunately. I heard that he had a stroke. He's pretty young. He's an ex-mormon. Phenomenal guy. Oh my God, is he so good. Let's see if Brother Jake's still on here. Does he still have videos up? Yes, he does. 20,000 subbies. I'm so sad he's not uploading anymore. It's been like 8 years, 9, 10 years, and the last one was 5 years ago. He breaks things down so well. Well, I can't find it, but there's something called Anachronisms, and Brother Jake here explains Anachronisms. Basically, the tablets or whatever, the plates, the gold plates that Joseph Smith supposedly had that nobody could actually see because he wouldn't let them see them. Supposedly, when translated, they had things like deer and stuff that were discussed. When deer were not around in the region or time that it was supposed to be set, like that the plates were supposed to be set. The whole thing was nonsensical trash, and the only reason that people buy it today is because they were tricked into it effectively, or they were born into it, lied to otherwise.
There's so much to unpack here, and what I love about it is that a Mormon watches this and says, yeah, that basically checks out. That's what we believe. What I love about this is that South Park doesn't even need to embellish the story for the average viewer to just say, what?
Absolutely agree.
The Native American is white? The most remarkable thing I think about Joseph Smith is the fact that people believed him. The Book of Mormon, which I have one right here, is apparently gold plates that a prophet in the Americas buried that is a compilation of stories that is a religious text from...
Oh, and it has horses in it too, yeah. And it's supposedly set in the 500s, I think. It's been so long since I read about this. I think it was set in the 500s. It was discovered, quote unquote, in 1823 and translated over the course of, quote unquote, translated over the course of the next like 30 years or something. And there's one book that Mormons have, the Book of Abraham, I think, where this traveling salesman had an ancient Egyptian text, a real ancient Egyptian text. And Joseph Smith, he put all of the money together from the people in the community to purchase it from this traveling salesman. And he, quote unquote, translated these hieroglyphics from this actual ancient Egyptian text. Interestingly enough, the document was lost to time, destroyed in a big fire, a big museum fire. So we have no way of knowing if it was real or whatever. However, the document, it turns out, that Joseph Smith purchased from this traveling salesman was discovered in the basement of another museum. It exists, it turns out. Aside from that, he drew facsimiles, like he drew pictures of the things that he saw in this document and translated them for us. And it was just complete trash. He translated, quote unquote, this whole book of Abraham, I believe, into this religious text about God doing all this shit, when in reality it was just like an ancient Egyptian funeral document. It was nothing special. Anyway, I just think that's so fascinating.
From the Native Americans. Why? There's so much context that you have to go into to explain what this even is. And basically that they are ancestors of Israelites who left Jerusalem, and they made a boat that somehow made it all the way across the ocean, landed in the Americas.
Oh, that's right. And they had golden rock, or no, I'm sorry, not golden rocks. They had illuminated rocks that were lit by Jesus' touch, I think. Right? Like Jesus touched these rocks and they sailed by the light of these lit rocks or whatever. By the way, this is the book that she had a minute ago. I just downloaded it. And here you go. The Illustrated Story of President Joseph Fielding Smith. That's his name? Fielding? Okay. This is from 1982? Wow. Actually, really beautiful drawings. I like it a lot. The biography of Joseph Smith. If someone had said, "We've waited a long, long time for you, young man," to the baby son born to Joseph F. and Julina Smith on a hot summer day, July 19th, 1876. Wow, mine's July 20th. That's funny. In Salt Lake City, Utah, they would have been correct. The parents had been waiting and praying for 10 years. It was not that they had no children at all. Joseph F. and his first wife, Julina, did have 3 beautiful daughters, but they wanted a son to carry the respected name of his father, Joseph Fielding Smith. The baby did indeed have a noble heritage. His great uncle was the prophet Joseph Smith. His grandfather was Hiram Smith, and his father was an apostle of the Lord. Okay. Joseph Smith had an apostle for a grandfather? What? Anyway, interesting little illustrated book here. Pretty pictures and stuff. I really like it. Wow, this cow has a super short neck. Oh my God, he has almost no neck. What is this? Is this like out in a blizzard? I guess. Another horse. What is this? Ice cream or something? More cows. Okay. I love how they like always portray Joseph Smith as like this honest, respectable, duty-bound, professional guy when he was barely literate and he was scamming people pretty much his entire life. Even if you don't believe that he scammed people in the Mormon church or whatever, he most definitely scammed people in his early days, bare minimum. You have to at least admit to that one, right? Anyway, interesting book we got here. What, is this guy in an airplane? Looks like an airplane. Interesting. Wow. All right. Wow. Yeah, he is in an airplane. Died July 2nd, 1972, I guess is the new prophet, because a prophet is at the head of the Mormon church at all times, right? The guy at the top is the prophet, and they have a different prophet. When that one dies, a new one takes his place. Anyway, interesting.
And that they wrote a record of their religious experiences, and that's what we have today. Let's really quick watch the Mormon reaction to this. This is what she says.
That was like a paraphrase of what Moroni said to him, but I mean, they got the gist.
I love that she doesn't even register that this whole whiteness thing is weird. You know, and she doesn't explain it either. She explains, you know, where the Book of Mormon came from, why it's important, why she has a testimony of it, but there's never an explanation for the doctrine behind why the angel Moroni is white.
That's so funny. I didn't think about it.
First of all, even if they were from Jerusalem, they probably shouldn't be as white as this guy. He looks like Joe Biden to me, or name any white old man.
I love that. That's great. Yes. You know, actually, fascinatingly, I've been writing about Germany, World War II era. Was Hitler an atheist? Check it out, Amazon and Audible. Anyway, signed copies on my website, owenmorgan.com. Germans had a very complex excuse for why they believed that Jesus was white and blonde and blue-eyed. And the excuse basically boiled down to this. Jesus was not Jewish. He was Aryan. And he was the first anti-Semite, the world's first anti-Semite. In German Christians' mind, it was a full-blown denomination of Christianity, the German Christians were. They almost named themselves the Christian nationalists, but that's a story for another day. Anyway, they believed that Mary was not Jewish, that Joseph was the Jewish one, and there was no Joseph DNA mixed up in there. Basically, they claimed that a Roman soldier fathered Jesus rather than Joseph or God or whatever. They claimed that he was most definitely like divine or whatever, and he was Jesus, of course, but his DNA was that of a Roman soldier and Mary, who was not Jewish. So anyway, that's how the German Christians got around the whole thing. How do Mormons get around this? Do they just like not address it at all?
That's who he looks like. But the reason for this whiteness of the Native Americans is because the Book of Mormon teaches that the righteous Native Americans had white skin. They literally call...
That's right. The curse of Cain. Is that what it is? The curse of Cain was the thing where God cursed people. Or God cursed Cain's lineage by giving them black skin or dark skin. Is that? I think that's what it is. She's probably going to explain.
Call it white and delightsome in the Book of Mormon.
Mormon art depicting the righteous Native Americans, left-hand side, against the sinful Native Americans, right-hand side. Notice the painter's choice in skin color. Yeah. Dark skin means you're from an evil line, right?
However, when they sin, they have dark skin. And this dark skin in the Book of Mormon is a curse. When you're sinful, your skin turns dark. And this is part of the original Joseph Smith teaching around race and later breed.
That's why they didn't allow black people in the church until like 1979, maybe, or something. I mean, you could come to church. You weren't allowed to be a member. it was the exact same logic behind the Nazified Christians, the German Christians, and why they wouldn't allow Jews to have any part in ministry or anything at all. Same exact reasoning. I find that really fascinating. In fact, there's an old book on this exact... Whoa, Jesus Christ, there's a cat all of a sudden. Holy mother. All right, you can sit up here for a minute. In fact, there's an old book on this exact subject. On basically the Mormon Church released it, and it's from like a long time ago, and they talk about like quote unquote the Negro and stuff. It's like really bad.
Brigham Young is that dark skin is a curse, and that black people specifically have the curse of Cain, which is the mark that God put on Cain when the whole Cain and Abel thing went down in the Bible. It's all based in racism, that people who are less valiant have dark skin. And
yeah, again, it's all of the exact same reasoning used against Jews in Germany in the 1930s.
And that's a curse from God. To read where they talk about this in the Book of Mormon is 2 Nephi verse 5:21. And he had caused the cursing to come upon them, yea, even a sore cursing, because of their iniquity. For behold, they had hardened their hearts against him, that they had become like unto a flint. Therefore, as they were white and exceedingly fair and delightsome, that they might not be enticing unto my people, the Lord God did cause a skin of blackness to come upon them. And so that's why...
This is the Mormon book. The Mormon literature. I'm not sure which specific, the Book of Nephi. I think that's from the Book of Mormon, right? Because the Book of Mormon includes a bunch of different little books similar to the Bible in structure. That's straight out of Joseph Smith's mouth, basically. Wow, man.
Why we see, and it's so funny that she doesn't explain why this whiteness is being added as an element to South Park. That's why we see Angel Moroni as white, is because he is one of the fair and delightsome people. And so this depiction of Moroni being white is definitely rooted in racism. It's rooted in Joseph Smith's racism.
Oh yeah, not even a little bit. It is full-blown racism, like fully all in racism. It's just crazy, man. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. Let me know if you think we should watch more of this kind of thing. It seems pretty interesting to me.